Hello and welcome to Your Ghana, My Ghana. We're on Graphic Online TV on YouTube and I am Dede Amano Wilkes. After last week's focus on the future of cocoa, today we're talking about chocolate. Ghana is famed for the best cocoa beans on earth, but what will it take to be ranked among the best chocolate makers in the world? My guest today is chocolatier Jean Donko. She is the founder and managing director of chocolatiers, a maker of some of the most delicious chocolates in Ghana. Welcome to the show, Jean Donko.
Thank you, Dede. Thank you for inviting me.
Pleasure. But before we start our conversation, let's watch this short documentary on chocolate making in Ghana. Ghana's cocoa beans get a premium price on world markets because its geographic location and climate favor cocoa production, and because the natural method of fermenting cocoa beans developed by cocoa farmers at the start of the cocoa revolution gives Ghana's cocoa its distinct quality and flavor. But when it comes to the branding of chocolate and other cocoa byproducts, Ghana is still far from gaining world renown. This deprives the economy of the kind of backward and forward linkages that could deepen the sophistication of its manufacturing industry. The concept of linkages was developed by German economic historian Albert Otto Hirschman. Hirschman's strategy for achieving economic development in poor developing economies was to target key industries with strong linkages to other parts of the economy. Remarkably, Hirschman was one of the world-renowned economic advisors brought to Ghana by Kwame Nkrumah during the late 1950s and early 1960s, ahead of compiling his 7-year development plan. A year before his overthrow in 1966, Nkrumah set up the Cocoa Processing Company, CPC, to create just these types of linkages between Ghana's star performer cocoa and its fledgling manufacturing industry. Today, CPC has installed capacity to process 64,500 metric tons of raw beans a year, but is only hitting 25,000 metric tons currently. Similarly, despite an annual budget to produce 3,000 metric tons of chocolates of all varieties, the company barely manages 2,000 tons as of now, due to constraints with old machinery breaking down and a crisis reflected in the plummeting of its share price. But there are some areas of promise. After Valentine's Day was renamed Chocolate Day in Ghana, local consumption of chocolate began to rise markedly. CPC was the only Ghanaian chocolate producer from 1965 until 2016, when private individuals producing artisanal chocolates emerged. In recent years, the rise of high-quality local artisanal brands such as Niche, Bioko Treats, Mansa Gold, Midunu, and Ferrafrique have challenged the dominance of CPP as the sole player in the local chocolate and confectionery manufacturing industry with its Golden Tree varieties. Ghana's reputation for the best cocoa beans in the world gives its chocolatiers an advantage and a distinct flavor, whereas other chocolate manufacturers use a blend of cocoa beans from all over the world, Ghana's premium quality beans making up perhaps 10% of the mix. Ghana is the only country in the world that does not blend its cocoa beans with those from any other country. Small artisanal brands like Bioko Treats and Mansa Gold have created chocolate bars and confectionery with exotic local flavors such as Gari, Zoe, Prekese, Bissap, Tiger Nuts, Adan Sea Salt, and Volta region coffee beans. But they face huge challenges related to the high cost of doing business in Ghana. This includes the cost of importing machines and dairy and sugar ingredients, as well as the cost of electricity to run air conditioners to keep the machines cool and the chocolates from melting. In addition, when shipping costs, insurance, import duties, and taxes and levies amounting to more than 20% of the production price are factored in, Ghana's chocolate appears expensive compared to established global brands and more like a luxury good than the nutritious snack some believe it could become. Meanwhile, the problems of aging trees, illegal mining known as galamsey, and the need to incentivize young people to take an interest in cocoa farming are additional challenges. As a result, volumes are low and little of the handcrafted product is exported. And when it comes to regional opportunities opened up by the African Continental Free Trade Area (AfTA), Ghana's chocolatiers are hopeful that AfTA may help to facilitate trade between African countries, but are yet to see any practical initiatives. Chocolate manufacturing globally is a highly lucrative, multi-billion-dollar business. But while European markets are probably not going to magically open up to Ghanaian chocolatiers to corner any share already staked by long-time players, more effort may need to be focused or making after work. This, of course, assumes that policymakers will protect the cocoa industry from the threat of galamsey and incentivize Ghana's long-suffering cocoa farmers to continue producing the best cocoa beans in the world. Jean Donka, it's great to have you in the studio today, and thank you for bringing along some of your chocolate products for us to look at. Can you just talk us through them?
Okay, so we have at Bioko Treats, we are chocolate makers, which is that we do the chocolate from scratch, and then we are chocolatiers as well. So once we do a chocolatier is the one that does the confectionery, the pralines and the bonbons. And then the chocolate maker does it from the tree to the bar or from the bean to the bar.
Okay, so a chocolate maker makes chocolate from the bean, the cocoa bean,
or from cocoa mass.
Or from cocoa mass.
Yes, and then
to the bar.
Yes.
And a chocolatier
takes what the chocolate maker has done and turns this into pralines and bonbons, delightful confectionery.
And these are the pralines.
And
these are the pralines and bonbons. And
these ones, Ghana has a lot of cashew. So we decided to coat some of the cashews, and it's become one of our best sellers actually. So these are chocolate coated cashew.
Okay.
And this is coffee from the Volta region.
Okay.
And it's chocolate coated coffee beans.
Chocolate coated coffee beans.
Yeah, so these are some of our products. Yes.
So cocoa is also developing in Ghana now. I remember some decades ago there was bongo coffee, which we used to laugh about.
Yes.
But now there seems to be...
Yes, there's some really good coffee.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So you mix the coffee and chocolate for a new product. And the last one you have there?
I think this is also cashew. Coated cashew. I think one is dark chocolate coated.
Wonderful.
One is milk chocolate coated.
Wonderful.
Cashew. Yeah.
Okay, lovely. And last week we were talking about cocoa, the state of health of the trees, all kinds of challenges affecting the cocoa sector. Now that's your raw product. Without cocoa you can't make chocolate.
No.
What is your view on the environment surrounding cocoa growing in Ghana currently?
Okay, so currently I can talk about, we have a family farm, a very small farm. And when I've gone there, we are cutting down the trees and trying to regrow them. That takes a few years, 3 to 5 years to harvest. So of course, what's going to happen is that a lot of the farmers don't want to do that.
You're cutting down the trees because of what? Because
they're old, so they're not producing as much as they should be. Now, I'm not a farmer, but this is the conversation I've had my uncles having.
Okay. So are they trees that your uncles planted?
Yes,
some time ago?
But it's been like years. So they're cutting down some of them and then cultivating. Fortunately, they have extra land, so cultivating. But what I'm saying is that the tree cutting has to be done, but it's proving a challenge because for a lot of cocoa farmers, that's their only source of income. So they look at it and if I cut it down, what's going to happen? And fortunately in that area where we are, there's no galamsey that I've noticed. But the galamsey, which is there, is in Ashanti region.
Ashanti region.
Yes, not too far from Kumasi. So galamsey is where they're turning the cocoa farms into these mining areas, So I understand that it's really affected other areas. In our area, not yet, that I've seen. So it's a combination of things. The farmers are getting old. I mean, when I look at my uncles, they're getting old. So, of course, it's...
And they don't have young people to help them.
They don't have young people. So I think that...
That's because the young people are not interested.
They're not interested. Farming is tough, one. Cocoa farming is even harder. It takes a longer time for you to see the results of it. So I'm thinking that if the price goes up, that will encourage young people to go in. I mean, nobody wants to work for little or nothing. And so when you look at the amount of work that goes into getting the beans, which produces the chocolate, I know the government just increased prices again. And yes, it's my raw material, but, I think that maybe we can do more.
Increase the price even more.
Increase the price
because the international
prices
price
are good. It will encourage people to go into the farming, and we do need younger people to go into the farming of cocoa, particularly. You know, I've been lucky to have access to mango farmers, for instance, where you have a younger crowd and more educated people. So there's a bit of sustainability built in it already. But with the cocoa farm, I have seen younger people at functions where we have gone to train them on the use of certain fertilizers, because I had a relative who was selling those things. And so you see the demographics is changing, but maybe not as quickly as we need it to change.
The demographic, you mean there are younger people coming in?
I can see, I don't know if they're farmers, but they would come to these sort of things that we're doing, and I remember my aunt commenting that there are young people. Every time she sees that there are younger people. I'm sure that some of them are farmers, but I don't know if all of them are farmers. What I'm saying is the age of the trees and the age of the farmer is important
For the future.
for the future
Of the
of the farm. So that's what I can say about the beans or the cocoa growing, that part of it. And of course, the sanctity of the farming land. Is it going to remain for cocoa farms, or is it going to be used for something else? Maybe quantity shouldn't be our main focus. It should be quality.
Because there has been a drive to increase production.
Yeah.
Whereas now that production is down, the price is very high.
Price is very high. But maybe I don't know if it will ever go back to what it used to be. Maybe it shouldn't necessarily go back. Ghana has, fortunately, is known for quantity as well as quality of its beans. But maybe we should focus on quality as well. That will push the price up a little for the growers. Yeah.
And so in terms of the promise you see, if there are young people being attracted, what has changed in the environment apart from what's happening on the farms? So CPC used to have pretty much a monopoly on chocolate production, cocoa processing, from when they were inaugurated by Kwame Nkrumah in 1965 until just a few years ago, when you were among the first chocolate makers to enter, private individuals to enter the market. I think Niche may be the first.
Niche was there, but I don't know. Actually, to be honest with you, there's a dearth of information in Ghana on everything. But when I was doing my research, there were I would say it's about 7, 8 companies that I saw online. And I know that one of them was, I can actually see one of them now. I have contact with one of them. The others, not so much. So it's not that, I don't know who else. I mean, I'm sure there were other people in there as well.
Oh, I see. The other chocolatiers are not very visible.
Well, at that time, now more people have become visible. Okay. There's an organization that the chocolatiers have formed. So yes, the visibility is increasing, which can only be good for the industry.
And so it's now a deregulated market in terms of processing.
In terms of processing, cocoa. Yes. In terms
and
of
that
processing.
Means that it's likely to attract more people. There are more opportunities for people to come in.
Yeah.
And now what about opportunities in terms of marketing the product? Has the AFTA, the African Continental Free Trade Area, made any difference yet, or is it still early days?
Well, I've tried to use it to export their service. I've tried to use their services for just to send something to Nigeria. And they've offered training to SMEs to help to understand the whole process. It's not easy, in terms of, if you look at it, if I want to send chocolates to Nigeria, I have to do it by air. And by air is through a certified carrier that, in terms of, I'm sure that all the paperwork are meeting all the things that I'm supposed to meet. I have been doing this on and off for some time. I haven't seen any difference between using after with and then doing it as I had been doing it all along. I haven't yet. And that's because I tried twice and it was just too cumbersome.
What did you ask them? What kind of help were you seeking from them?
Okay, what I'd wanted from them was to see, would it be any easier going through you than maybe doing it like I package it in my own place and call the carrier to come for it in terms of paperwork. And I don't have to deal with anything. They do everything. Maybe once it's fully implemented, it will be easier. But for me, I didn't see that they made it going through that process made it any easier for me. And it's also because maybe my quantities, I don't know, maybe the quantities are too small.
Okay.
I don't really understand what was,
What are your quantities?
I'm doing, let's see, a minimum order of about 200 bars. So that's 20 kilos.
20 kilos.
Yeah, and because we are small, we can do, sometimes we've had people telling us, can you do this? I know you do 75% dark, but I want 60% dark. Can you do it? And yes, if you meet the minimum order, yes, we'll do it for you and send it off to you. Yeah.
And could it be because you already had the contacts in Nigeria that you were sending it to?
Yeah.
But would they be useful in terms of if you were to say, find me markets in South Africa or in East Africa? Is that where they might be able to step up and make those connections?
Yeah, I think South Africa. I've had people come in about East Africa as well, about Kenya as well. And so we are looking at all those contacts, but we do need to have access that, I need to understand how exactly AFTA is going to help me to secure those export markets. To find people. I don't think they are the ones going to find me someone that I can export to, but they're supposed to make it easier for me. Once I've found someone to export, they're supposed to make it easier for me in terms of tariffs and all that kind of thing. But because there are so many variations in who has signed, who hasn't signed, who has done the whole protocol. Then there's the ECOWAS protocol within which is it operating within after operating within ECOWAS? All those kinds of things come into place. East Africa has its own type of ECOWAS. Everybody has a little bit of something going on in there. Southern Africa has its own. How does it override those ones? Is it I don't know, is it the one that their rules and regulations will be the controlling factor, or am I going to work with ECOWAS, in which case I stick to West Africa?
So what you're looking for is a situation where you can export freely in Africa without paying any tariffs.
Yes.
That's the objective, the ultimate objective.
Yes.
And that would be an alternative to trying to get into European markets, which now is quite difficult. Can you tell us? You've had some experience getting into European markets.
I haven't. I haven't exported into Europe because not before. I read about the new tariffs that if you're going to export, especially milk products, that you have to know what you're doing, that the milk products have to have started its journey over there. At least I think that's what I've read. That's what I understand.
You mean if you're exporting the
milk chocolate
to Europe, the milk that you're using would have had to come from Europe to Ghana before you export the product
before you can
back.
Export them.
But the cocoa, naturally, they accept that it's Ghanaian cocoa.
Yes.
But the milk and the sugar, presumably?
I read about the milk, not the sugar.
Okay.
I read about the milk, not the sugar. But I look at it also as an opportunity. It doesn't have to be a cow's milk powder. You can use cashew, you can use rice, you can use gari,
Bambara
you can use
beans.
Cassava, bambara beans. I haven't even thought about millet.
Milk.
All those things to create milk. So I look at it as an opportunity for us to get into the R&D. It's expensive, but to experiment and see what can what can you use in place of milk powder to create and get a taste? It may not taste the same, but is it a taste that is palatable? So I think it's exciting.
And taking advantage of the new interest in health products, plant-based alternatives.
So
could be
I
quite
think it's a great time to be experimenting.
Yes.
I mean, I know when I came in, I said my babies. I have small boxes of chocolates. I'm always experimenting with little things, and it takes a while. It's expensive, and some of them taste awful. What I started
Your own
with,
products?
yes. The ones I started with, and sometimes I have to throw them away because this was the first Gary I did. I have to.
But you have Gary here, don't you?
Yes, we do. I think it's the smaller one.
I really look forward to tasting Gary chocolate.
Yes,
that must be. I've tasted the Ada salt, and that is absolutely delicious.
Thank you.
The Gary, and you have Zoe and
Zoe. That's the roasted corn and nuts and the spices that we have in Ghana,
and
which
bissap.
is plentiful. And bissap, the bissap. I don't do it in a bar form, but I do it in the confectionery form. So the bonbons gives you also the opportunity the vast canvas to be very productive, to be very to experiment. We have a lot of fruits in Ghana.
Right.
So what can you do with the fruits? We have all these spices. What can you do with them? And then of course we have the millet. We have the corn. Can you do a chocolate with that? And what comes out?
Yes, something different.
Yeah, something different.
Exporting. That's wonderful.
Something different.
But looking again at that question of the markets, that also means looking at the question of volumes. You said that you're doing 20 kgs, 20
the
kilos.
minimum,
20 kgs in what period?
20 kg if you're ordering.
If your minimum order is
my
20
minimum
kgs.
Order. And usually I have it, so if somebody comes to order, I just give it to them.
So exporting assumes that you've got excess capacity beyond the local market that you're going to export. And that assumes that you're getting the raw material.
Yes.
So would you be able to get as much cocoa, the cocoa beans or the cocoa mass, depending on what product you're making? Can you get as much as you need or would want?
If I stay within, for now, I can tell you today that if you wanted, let's say 30 kilos, do I have 30 kilos excess? Yes, I do. Do I have 50 kilos excess? Yes, I do. Do I have 100 kilos excess? No, I don't. So then I would need time to build up to that. You see, because we do very small batch, and everything's by hand. I mean, I'm not saying we're making the chocolate by hand, but we are sorting by hand to make sure that what goes into the chocolate is exactly what we want in there, that sort of thing. So I would need time to scale up. Now, if I have a market that I know that I'm going to have to produce for
example, South Africa?
Yes, scaling up will need about 6 to 8 months because the machines have to come from outside. And so more machinery will be needed for me to be able to meet that demand. Yeah.
And so it means you wouldn't be getting the cocoa beans from your own family farm, but from Cocoa Board.
I'd have to get it from Cocoa Board.
Yes.
Yes, I'd have to get it from Cocoa Board, and I'd have to look at. And you see, getting it from Cocoa Board also means that it's a mixed beans. Do you know where the beans are coming from? All those questions come into place. But yeah, if I'm scaling up, then of course it would have to be.
What do you mean when you say, do we know where the beans are coming from?
Okay, so if I used beans in my chocolate today, I would know that it came from this particular farm, and it's a good story to tell.
Okay,
and it's traceable for traceability. Now, Cocoa Board has I know that they keep track of the quality of things. So of course, I'm sure if you wanted to know where is the beans coming from, that they could tell you. Yeah, or the cocoa mass, which we use. Sometimes it's also, can you tell me where the cocoa beans are coming from for the cocoa mass? I mean, to produce that cocoa mass that I'm using in my chocolate. You understand? So this is why, for me, I think it's I've seen that there are some cocoa farmers who started making chocolate. 1 or 2 of them, which I think is it's a great tool, because if you're eating that chocolate, it's coming from this farmer, and It's coming from her trees, you know. So you have that whole value chain happening in one location.
And where can we find those chocolates? Who are these farmers who are making
I'll
chocolates?
give them the information to
Okay,
you
that would
after
be
the
very- that would be-
yeah. You need to talk to a very dynamic woman.
That's
Talk to her.
okay. Look
Yeah.
forward to getting the details.
Yeah.
That would be very interesting to follow up on.
Yeah.
So let's look at, we've looked at the opportunities, the challenges, the business environment facing small chocolate manufacturers, chocolatiers like yourself. What are the constraints? What does the business environment help with you with, and what does it deter you from?
Okay, one of our biggest constraints for us at Bioco is energy, electricity. It's quite a drain. So when I price a bar of chocolate and I look at the percentage of the overhead and how much electricity contributes to that overhead, then I look at the taxes. So if I charge 50 cedis for a bar of chocolate, 21.9% of that is going to the government.
21.9%.
Yeah. So that is the VAT plus National Health Get Fund, and then the 1% COVID. So that comes to 21.9%. Okay, so out of every $50 that goes out. And then, of course, you have to do all
Out of every 50 CDs.
50 CDs, sorry,
CDs,
after
right, yeah.
every 50 CDs that goes out. Then, of course, you have to do all the other overheads on salaries as well. So that's a big constraint on us. And then access to, I would say, usable money. When I say usable money, I mean interest rates are very high. So, of course, if we need to expand, and you do need to expand, or you become stagnant, access to money is difficult. The government has and does offer certain grants. I mean, but it's also not available.
Grants
They
to
can't.
manufacturers, small-scale manufacturers.
Small-scale manufacturers, and I have been the beneficiary of one of them, one or two of them, which is great, you know, because a small scale, an interest of 35-40% is just not manageable, you know, so that is one of my challenges. Another thing is cocoa beans access, which we have an association called COVAHA, Cocoa Value Addition Artisans. And I know that the leadership has been in talks with Cocoa Board over several years and over, you know, since about 2020, talking about how they can give the local SMEs in the industry access to beans at a price that is usable, that they can work with. So they've done a good job. Everything is, I believe, done now.
Does that mean access to cocoa beans at a subsidized price?
Well, access to cocoa beans, the subsidized price is what is the second point now. So access to a certain tonnage of cocoa beans, so that we don't have to run all over the place looking for cocoa mass, if it's available at all, from the big people in Tema. So
from CPC and
from
Tema.
CPC and other places,
Okay.
if they have it available. Yeah. So
Sorry, CPC is Cocoa Processing Company.
yes. Yeah, so they have the cocoa mass as well. But I'm saying that Cocoa Board has been talking with the leadership of the Cocoa Value Addition Artisans, and they have they have agreed to give us cocoa beans, a certain tonnage. Of course, cocoa is an export product for the country, so they can't willy-nilly give us everything we want, but they've agreed to give us a certain tonnage per season, which is good. I think they're still talking about the price, you know, so that would be a relief. But this is the first time that we've gone even as far as, okay, we know you are an industry, you're growing. This is a certain quantity of cocoa beans that will be set aside for you. So that's
So there's
good
progress.
news. Yeah,
There's some
progress
hope for the future.
Yeah, there is.
That's good. Now, after last week's show, I was contacted by an investment consultant called Nana Abwaji Bwampong, who wanted to share some insights about conditions on cocoa farms. He sent me a little video of children of cocoa farms eating some golden tree chocolates for the first time in their lives. And this is the reason, Jean, that we've put these golden tree chocolates, so we can have a look at the video and then maybe discuss what we think about it. Let's take a little look.
I don't know. Kuku na. Oh, pardon. Ani adi edo kuku. Ndiede. Ntunya waso bedo kuku ni.
After the old jump from his head.
Ayo da na nyondo. Ne dia na mpezo bidi. What was the coffee?
Can I hide?
Okay, Jean, I don't know what you thought about that video, but I'm interested in discussing two aspects of it with you. One is the question of pricing, and secondly, what was interesting to see children eating chocolates out in the hot sun. Maybe we can start with that one. And there's one fascinating question about golden tree chocolates, contrasted with some of these newer ones, is why they don't melt in the sun. You see hawkers hawking them in traffic all the time. I buy them when I'm in traffic jams, and they're still quite firm when I get home. Whereas I think if I bought a bar of your chocolate, it would already have melted.
It'll have to be
before
in
it gets
condition.
to my car.
Yes.
What is it about golden tree that enables it to withstand the temperature that no other chocolate bar can do?
That's a question I have asked them myself. And I was told that they use skimmed milk powder to do the chocolates. Now, skimmed milk has less fat than full cream milk powder. And I'm assuming that is part of it.
I also asked the head of corporate communications at CPC, and he said you wouldn't ask Coca-Cola what they put inside Coke.
Well,
so
I asked, and this young man, this young man, this was a few years ago. I asked them, and I only asked because I had seen one with a purple wrapping. So I asked, what's the difference? And he said that the purple one is for export, and that has full cream milk, and this one has skim milk. I hope I'm not revealing any secrets, but this young guy told me, and I said, oh, okay, I understand. So is that why it doesn't melt? And he just sort of chuckled and walked away from me. I thought he felt.
And you haven't tried it to see whether?
I haven't tried skimmed milk in my 50% cocoa milk chocolate. No, I haven't tried it. I have tried it in something else. I didn't like what came out. Yeah.
Okay. So they have some secret process,
maybe something method beyond, they've been around for years. So
they have decades.
Maybe it's something else. And then also I've asked the young men who sell it in the street, how come this thing is not melting? And one of them actually said to me, oh, we have our ice chest at the corner there. So every once in a while we walk across and put it in just to harden it a little bit. And then we take it out. We get a new box and we take it out. Because I don't know how, I know that, chocolate melts, cocoa butter melts at the body temperature.
At body temperature. Chocolate melts, cocoa butter melts at body temperature.
So it's amazing to me how in 38-degree weather they're still holding it.
And you wouldn't think of putting your chocolates in an ice chest and sending hawkers out to go?
No.
Why not?
I think that every product, everybody has a market segment. Yeah. My market segment will not buy chocolate in the street.
Okay, all right.
They may just to experiment with it. For me to put it in the street, I have to be able to bring my cost of production down. I'm not producing enough to be able to bring the unit cost down. Once I'm able to do that, maybe I'll look at bringing it in the street. What I want to do, though, is to be able to have more people who are not my market taste my chocolate, simply because I use a lot of Ghanaian ingredients in the production. So I'd love them to know that Gary is not just for making Gary soakings or doing something, but you can get a similar taste through chocolate, you know. So that sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. But for me to be able to sell it widely, I have to be able to produce more.
And that brings us back to the little video of the children eating chocolate, children of cocoa farmers,
Yes.
eating chocolate for the first time in their lives. How exciting, how beautiful. But realistically, this is the question. How many people can really afford to even eat chocolate in Ghana? You're talking about your market, and presumably that's a well-to-do market. Because you said that your bars sell for 50
cedis.
Is that for the small one? 100 CDs?
70.
70, sorry. 70 for this
80.
one.
I don't want my office calling me to it. I think it's 70.
But that's pretty much, that's out of the pocket of your average Ghanaian, wouldn't you say? Most people can't afford to, wouldn't be able to afford to eat chocolate every day in Ghana. When you consider the cost of a bar of chocolate, with when you weigh it against the average salary of a wage earner, who could afford to buy even one bar of chocolate a month? Let alone every day, as children do in Europe, for example. So these kids on the cocoa farm eating chocolate for the first time, very exciting. But is it something that we can envisage? Because even Golden Tree, Ghana's cocoa, they've explained to me it's expensive. It's expensive by any standard because we have a premium price. Because the quality is such, the quality of the bean is such that I think it's $5 on every ton, is it? In international markets. Ghana's cocoa is known for its quality, and it gets a premium price above all other cocoa in the world. So how realistic is it that our poor children all across Ghana,
in every lunchbox or...
Yes. Can we ever get there? What would it take to get there? I wish CPC could have come today. They're in Takoradi. I wish they could have come, because how can we get this, this product that we're so proud of and that doesn't melt in the sun, moreover, how can we get it in the lunchbox of every Ghanaian child? Will that day ever come?
I don't know. I wish I had an answer for that one. It's, 3 years ago, was it 2024 years? I can't believe 4 years is over. We did something with one of the cocoa cooperatives in the eastern region. And so we helped to register some of the farmers and renew and register on the national health. So we all went, my staff and I, plus the national health, joined us to do this. And we took some of our chocolate bars. And, they were surprised. So this cocoa bean, this is what finally comes out. But then they have to have the taste for it as well. How do we get people to like the taste of chocolate? I think it's important, because since cocoa was never native to us, it was an export product, we never acquired the taste for it. Okay, so now we are suddenly trying to grow the taste side of cocoa. We're adding value. Children are supposed to be having cocoa drink in there.
Which is nutritious.
Yeah, which is nutritious. What goes into that cocoa drink? Okay, we have cocoa powder. What makes cocoa powder? The cocoa bean, the cocoa butter pressed out of it. What is left makes the cocoa powder. The machine to press that cocoa butter is from outside. Okay, the process of getting that cocoa powder is expensive. So how cheap can we get it to the point where every child every day has a cocoa drink? And it goes all the way to the cocoa farms. The children of cocoa farmers as they go to school. Is it realistic? Is it going to happen? should we be looking at maybe training the cocoa farmers that cocoa is sold as cocoa beans, but the beans, you can roast it, you crack it. That can be done on the farm. You can use it to make cocoa brittle. Yeah, for the children. Because of course, eating it like that takes a bit of doing. You can use it to make cocoa brittle. I understand that the little cocoa fingers, as they are growing in the pod, they're very little. That sometimes in times of to bulk up food, they use it like okra.
Oh, really?
You understand?
That's interesting.
Yeah. What else can we use cocoa for other than chocolate? Yeah. For now, it looks like it's the biggest byproduct of cocoa.
But cocoa butter
Cocoa butter
must be even
cocoa
bigger.
butter is even bigger because it's the most
Because
expensive
everybody-
part of making the chocolate. So cocoa butter, how do you get the cocoa butter out of the cocoa beans? So I think the farmers should also be, other than paying them more, they should also be shown about the value of what they do. And I know that there are programs in place or coming on board where the farmers are going to be shown how the quality of the beans that they produce impacts the final product, which is chocolate. You understand? In terms of it being so readily available that the children will have it every day, I don't see until maybe we change a lot of things in the process, not just more cocoa beans, but all the things that go towards making the the chocolate available. One of which is sugar. I don't know that we have a sugar industry here. Not that I'm aware of.
Small sugar industry.
Yes, small sugar industry. You know.
But milk, we don't have much.
No.
of a milk industry.
I mean, you know, when I was growing up, we could go and buy milk at Legon Farms. Fresh milk. You know. I don't know if it's still there. It may be still there. I'm not the best person to do all of these things. But I'm saying that I don't see how, if this is a 100-gram bar, if it's made into even a 10-gram bar, what is the cost of it? How much
The
is it
cost
going
of golden tree is it about 25 a bar?
I don't know. You know, so if you make it into a 10-gram bar, yeah.
No, it's less than that. Actually.
Yes. Do they have the equipment, the machinery to make 10-gram bars? You know?
Well, this is the question that last week when we were talking about cocoa, we had the chief executive of Cocoa Board, who told us a lot about the health benefits of cocoa, to the extent that, you know, it's even creating stem cells, helping with all kinds of health issues. If we had a government that really understood the dynamic between cocoa trees and the finished product, and were willing to create these linkages between agriculture and manufacturing, it could be that Ghana could decide to make itself an expert in creating the equipment you need, the machines you need, that we could make that our thing, so that we have these linkages between the farm sector and the manufacturing sector that would encourage people like you to do more of this. A forward-looking government could conceivably decide to do
that would lead to a reduction in the production cost, and then chocolate will become more available. But I think it's important that we also get that taste for. We have to learn how to eat chocolate, because I'm not saying that everybody. I mean, I'm not saying chocolate is a health food,
but it is now increasingly.
Especially the dark chocolate.
The dark chocolate, yes.
And if we are going to go into full-on production, not just the grindings making, but full-on production, we have to be able to consume some of what we produce local inside. We can't expect to export everything. We can't say that we are preparing this thing, but it's only for export. Why don't we want to? It's like opening a school and sending your children to the school next door. Why don't you want your children to go to that same school? So it's important. It's important that we also let people know the health benefits like you're talking about. Because my place is opposite a place where they sell is banku and tilapia. So sometimes I get people coming to my place after lunch, and they'll tell me, "Oh, I don't like sugar." So I ask them, "What do you think is the carbohydrate that you just consumed?" And they just sort of laugh about it, But everything in moderation, yeah. You're not going to sit down and eat this whole box of chocolate, yeah. But
You won't. I can't promise you I won't.
But if you're going to eat that,
Yes.
you want to eat a good piece of chocolate.
Yes.
Chocolate that is well made, and it's that you can enjoy, and the quality is consistent. So it's the value chain is a whole process. It's not just about the cocoa beans or even with the machinery. Why, for instance, I have a melting tank that I use to melt small amounts of chocolate, and that's imported. Why? It's just a bowl with electrical wires into it. I'm not that kind of manufacturer, but I mean, somebody should obviously be able to do it, On the other hand, I try to do something here locally. So off I go to Cantonment with some people, with the guy who said, "Oh, man, I can do it." I showed him the picture. I said, "Okay, fine." So I had to go and buy the sheet of stainless steel. They did not start rusting within 8 months, started rusting. You understand? So the stainless steel material that I used to do this thing that I was talking about, and this young man, I have to be honest, did a fantastic job, but it started rusting. Now the stainless steel one that I finally was able to buy, I've had for about 4 years, has never rusted under the same conditions. So if we decide to do it here, then manufacture some of the equipment here, then we have to do a good job. I remember someone introducing me, telling me about this guy who goes around the whole world. He told me himself, the whole world is calling me to come and help with machine manufacturing in the chocolate industry. So I said, "Well, I would like to meet you." At the day I called him, I remember he said, "I'm at a hotel giving a lecture." I said, "Okay, when you finish, I'll wait for you." I tried several times to get hold of him. He was too busy working outside to help big companies, so he said, to manufacture machines for the chocolate industry, but not in Ghana. Why? I think he wants to earn foreign exchange. I don't blame him. Yeah, a Ghanaian. Yes, a Ghanaian. He wants to earn foreign exchange. He wants to be sure that this is not a one-off. I'm going to do something. What am I going to talk to her for? She's only producing 2 tons a year. What kind of machines is she looking for? There isn't that critical mass. Or is somebody encouraging him? Is somebody encouraging the young men and women at, in, let's say, University of Science and Technology, who are maybe making things, but industry has to pick it up and push it on. So it's a whole landscape of challenges and opportunities.
And I think that you've really shown us today that Ghana is making headway.
It is.
I think these are chocolates that we can really be proud of. I've tasted some of them and they are actually delicious. I think as good as any chocolates in the world.
Thank you. We have some great ones in the market here. And so it's good to walk into the supermarket and see some of these products and know that it's not just the imported ones. So yeah, it's a great future.
There's a great future indeed, and we hope you'll be part of that future for a long time.
Thank you.
On that note, thank you so much for being with us
so
here,
much.
June Donko. It's been a great pleasure meeting you and talking to you about your products.
Thank you.
We hope we'll have another opportunity soon.
I hope so too.
So that brings us to the end of this week's Your Ghana, My Ghana show. Thank you for joining us on Graphic Online TV, and please don't forget to hit the subscribe button on YouTube. My guest today has been Jean Donko, founder and managing director of Bioko Treats, and I am Dede Amano Wilkes. Hope to see you again next week.
For more news, please visit our website graphic.com.gh or follow us on Facebook at Daily Graphic and on YouTube and Twitter at GraphicGH.
Subscribe now.